Hello everybody, my name is Boulevard, and this is my tournament run from the LoR Invitational. For those of you that don't know what was going on, 16 of us were invited out to the Riot campus. It was 8 content creators and 8 Runeterra Open winners, and 1 content creator was paired with 1 Runeterra Open winner to make a team. One of them would play Standard, one of them would play Eternal, and then we would play a 4-round Swiss tournament into a finals bracket, and really just kind of a for fun. There were some really cool prizes on the line, not super important, but I was paired with Ian Noguera, many of you remember as the Cosmic Creation seasonal runner-up or the winner of the Siren Song Runeterra Open, and Ian said he didn't care which format he played, so I am here playing Eternal. Now that you have the general format out of the way, why I was doing, what I'm doing, let's go over my decks. Now, I don't have deck codes in the description, because again, we were playing with unreleased cards, which means the deck codes wouldn't function because these cards don't come out until the end of the month. So even if I had the deck codes, I literally couldn't give them to you because they wouldn't function. So let's talk about my strategy. I wanted to play Eternal because I thought it would be more fun. And while Worlds was going on, I didn't really feel like playing the decks we were seeing at Worlds, so I played a lot of Freljord Mordekaiser in Eternal, and this is effectively Indoor Spiders with Mordekaiser. I think everyone is pretty aware that Mordekaiser is going to be very powerful in Eternal. A lot of people talking about like Curse Keeper and Ravenous Butcher, those are in the deck in spades. But of course, the reason I wanted to play this was actually Babbling Bjerg, with Mordekaiser being the only 5 power unit in the deck. You can always tutor up a Mordekaiser, and then you can even resummon the Bjerg to get the Death Realm from Mordekaiser. Tutor up a second one, get the Champ spell, and that just seemed very powerful. But at its core, it is mostly just your typical self-sacrifice Indoor deck, with Mordekaiser, of course, being able to reset the Indoor and make it bigger once it's already in play, which is a cool little interaction. But that was a deck that I knew was going to be pretty good. So funny enough, everyone was kind of wondering, like how seriously is everyone going to take this tournament? Who's going to like sweat it really hard? And I told people I was playing a Mordekaiser deck, a Seraphine deck, and an Elder Dragon deck, because those are just the champions that I like. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to sweat it too hard, but it's like, I've never seen this deck before. I've never seen this deck before. So it's like, yes, I'm playing broken champions, but it's not like I'm net decking these or something. But yeah, I didn't feel great about seeing what. Anyway. So that's my Mordekaiser deck. I knew my default was going to be Mordekaiser and then Aphelios Viktor. The standard sort of Eternal classic. And then probably either Seraphine set or Karma set. And once I was looking at that lineup, I was like, hey, like Elder Dragon's pretty broken. Morgana's pretty broken. I should probably play those in my lineup, right? Like, it feels weird not to run them, especially because they're the new champions. Yes, they're broken, but like they are also fun. And so I made a pretty drastic pivot. This is basically just 4LW's Targon Seraphine from the last Eternal Open. Mostly net deck because I didn't feel like looking for, I didn't feel like coming up with my own Seraphine ratios. But I just really wanted to play 3x Sunken Temple. That's really, I really wanted to do that in a tournament setting. And so obviously we're going to land on a Seraphine deck. The difference being instead of Zoe and Aphelios, I am playing Morgana and Viktor. Because I am playing Zoe, Aphelios, Elder Dragon. And this is a really cool deck that I've been playing a lot more since I got home, even in Standard. And effectively what you are is this deck is kind of modeled around Respect Your Elders, the Nora Elder Dragon list, where you are playing Plaza Guardian, you are playing Burblefish, you're not playing Riptide Rex, but you are using all of the spell generative units in Targon. We're talking Chained Caster, the new expansion, the card from the new variety set that I got to spoil. We're talking Aphelios, we're talking Zoe, we're talking Lunari Duskbringer. Just all these Targon cards that make spells to reduce the cost of these. And then I was like, oh, I can also run like Winding Light. So that's kind of my kill condition is like Plaza Guardian, Burblefish, Winding Light, and then we're also just playing Captain Erika because that is one of the most powerful Elder Dragon cards that you get access to in Eternal. And ultimately, I've always been a huge fan of Plaza Guardian Aphelios, and so that is something that I was like really excited to run. And luckily for me, this deck did not get banned very often, so I got to play it a lot, as we will see throughout this tournament. So without further ado, we will jump into it. This is my round 1 against Grapplr. So Grapplr is on War Mothers, a Nasus Mordekaiser, and Spooky Karma. And let's just fast forward through the ban phase here. Okay, yeah, they banned Seraphine. I banned War Mothers because She Who Wanders kind of wrecks my lineup. Whoopsie. All right, let's let it play now. Unfortunately, I can't have this full screened and used Epic Pen, so I'm probably not going to be like writing over it too much. But yeah, you know, as you can see, we're just going to dump a lot of that back, play the Zoe. And this is a pretty good looking hand. Now, this is Spooky Karma Go Hard version out of Grapplr. One thing that will come up later is I didn't take a very hard look at Grapplr's deck list, and so I'm going to make some plays that look pretty bad. I was watching over this game specifically before I shot this video, and I was like, wow, this does not look good on my end. But yeah, you know, it's all for fun. I have the Pale Cascade with the Zoe, so obviously we're not going to throw down Zoe on one because we want to Pale Cascade to play around Vile Feast. Also, I kind of forgot about the Go Hard stuff, but we get Go Hard, and I'm like, yeah, you know, that's fine. We just Pale Cascade it. This is why you Zoe on 2, so that you can get the draw to protect the champion. Also, if I had Zoe'd on 1, she would have just gotten Go Hard anyway, but Grapplr does have the follow-up Vile Feast. I got ahead of myself there. I thought he Vile Feasted on the stack. That's my bad. I spoiled it already. Oh, this is so rough. So me and Ian were allowed to talk to each other during the games, which you'll see. I don't think you'll ever see Ian do it. He was taking a lot longer than I was. My matches were just going a lot faster, and so I was constantly talking to him. There's not a whole lot of him leaning over. But yeah, we're just going to try to get the Aphelios train going. It's not like super important to get Aphelios online ASAP in a matchup like this because we're against hard control. Like Calibrum isn't really taking over the game. It's going to be almost more about like Severum healing up my units to get them out of ping ranges and things like that. And so, there goes my little guy. I'll get a Cosmic Youngling on board. I'm not feeling, like, too pressured, even though I know this is Spooky Karma. The only thing that I'm really worried about Grapplr actually doubling up on is, like, draw spells and Go Hard. And you'll see me play this one kind of weird, in my opinion, just, like, looking back on it in terms of, like, how slow I was willing to play. Gravitum makes sense if you're expecting a set. Crescendum makes sense if you're not. And, you know, because you're against a Karma deck, it's not really obvious whether or not they're actually representing something when they're passing like this. They might just be trying to take you to the late game. And so Soul Harvest is going to come out, but there's a Pale Cascade for that. And then, unfortunately, priority goes back over to me after this, so if I Crescendum, then I open myself up to the set, which, you know, it'd get me the Nightfall trigger to get the next weapon, but ultimately I would rather save either a Falling Star to finish off the set or a Pale Cascade to let Aphelios survive, but now that a Scattered Pod comes down, pretty free to Crescendum, go into Calibrum, because we'll poke that onto the pod, and even finish it off if Grapplr does go in for the attack here. You can just trade with the Youngling. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's kind of weird casting my, you know, kind of pseudo casting my own game now that everything's said and done. Pick up a Burblefish, that's not bad. Unfortunately, I do not remember if Grapplr runs Withering Wail or not. And so you'll see me do some kind of weird plays around that later on. But it's, again, one of those things where no one was really sure how seriously to take this. We were all just kind of like having fun. We're at the riot camps. It's like the end of the second day, so all of us know that like, oh, we got to go home soon. So not the most stable mental. You can see Ruben there in the background, just kind of checking out all the games, having fun. And I love that I got the Poro over my shoulder there to just kind of be a fun little piece. I'm gonna go in for an attack. I don't really, you know, if my Aphelios gets pinged down, my Aphelios gets pinged down, but eventually I do have to start chipping away at the life total of this Spooky Karma deck, especially because with double Falling Star, I don't have a whole lot going on in my hand. Still just holding some spell mana. Triple Falling Star is really not what I want to see in a matchup like this. Grapplr offers me a pass, and it's like, what am I going to do here, right? I kind of want to hold up the Captain Eureka, so I don't want to play the Burblefish, and Grapplr gets a pass out of me that I'm not super happy with. But now that I have the attack token, I'm willing to go below Eureka mana because I'm not as worried about a set. We're still on turn 8, so if Grapplr throws down a Karma, I still have turn 9 to fight over that. So we're going to try to get Burblefish some impact. We have a Pale Cascade to defend it from a ping. Grapplr just goes for another unit. I decide to pull out my Gravitum and throw that down onto the 2-1 so that I can, you know, rather safely attack with Aphelios. Grapplr didn't block it with the 1-1 on a previous turn, and so I'm pretty confident that I can push through that damage again. Also, sorry if I'm stumbling on my words a little bit more than usual. I had a tooth taken out the week before of the LoR Invitational, and I'm still just, like, kind of getting used to talking for longer periods of time. I don't know, it's noticeable. I'm sure I'll get used to it within a couple of weeks, but I am noticing myself like kind of tripping over my words a little more than usual, and so I do apologize for that. Vile Feast going to come down onto the Burblefish, but without a... And again, this is like why I didn't play the second Burblefish first. I could not remember if Grapplr played Withering Wail. And if there was like Withering Wail, Vile Feast onto Aphelios, or like Withering Wail onto my board, right? And then like Vile onto Aphelios, then I had to make a decision with the Pale Cascade about saving one of the Burblefish for damage or saving the Aphelios. And so I decided to just hold back the second Burblefish. I feel like I've still got Grapplr on a pretty tight clock. And now I actually got really lucky with the Burblefish spell and getting the Solari Sunhawk, because this is going to let me stun up the Karma to get some Falling Star value. And if I'm really lucky, Grapplr will fight over this because I've drawn 3 copies of what is otherwise a completely dead card. So I'm really hoping to fish for a Deny or a Nopify. Tag out is not ideal because then I can't follow it up with another Falling Star. So we'll see what happens here after I lock that in and grab Infernum. And it is the Nopify. I'm pretty pleased with that. I know you can see it on my face by my huge reaction, just how much fun I'm having, how exciting that was for me, how I feel the game is going. And there's going to be the tag out. And I still have enough mana for Captain Eureka, as well as the Plaza Guardian and Burblefish. And this is why I was so excited to run a deck like this. Again, I love spell slinging, and I love doing it in a way that isn't necessarily like the classical Seraphine or Karma set. So being able to like spell sling with Aphelios and Zoe to discount Plaza Guardians and Burblefish, like, is just so cool to me, so fun. And I've been playing this deck again since I got home, both in Standard and Eternal, and just having a blast with it. And it's pretty cool in Standard, where Burblefish actually only has 2 spells in the Targon spell pool. It's the Heavens Align that you saw me play earlier, as well as Targon Tellstone. And I've just been ripping Targon Tellstones left and right, which, gotta say, one of the better Tellstones. Unfortunately, you do really feel the impact of having to play the other Standard legal Targon champions and not Aphelios and Zoe. Gotta say, the spells that you get out of Aphelios and Zoe really make this deck flow in a way that you're just not going to get out of Standard, but it is playable. So we're going to go for a big heal here. Go Hard's going to take out one of my Burblefish. Not much I can do about that, but it will let me replace it with a Plaza Guardian. And then I believe on the following turn, I have to think real hard and try to remember whether or not Grapplr runs Ruination. And I think part of it is like, is there Ruination? How many Go Hards have been played? You know, am I about to get hit with a Pack Your Bags, something that will literally blast me back into 2020? And so that's why I'm just taking a little while to think here. I'm like, okay, yeah, do I overwhelm something? Do I put it on my small unit? Do I put it on my spell shield unit? Do I put it on my largest unit? Or do I just go for an open attack? And I decided to just slam that open attack in there because I have this Blessing of Targon, as well as a Faded proc onto the Scholars. So I can, like, Guiding Touch the Scholar for an extra damage. Obviously, I can protect the Burblefish from something like a Withering Wail. So I just go in for the attack. We're 1 off of lethal here. If Grapplr lines up the blocks that way, it looks like they are going to just push a little bit more damage onto the Aphelios. Makes sense. So I have a pretty non-committal line here to push for lethal thanks to the Faded proc. And then see how Grapplr responds. Again, Captain Eureka having Spell Shield just makes her such a powerful unit. All of the Vengeance targets now are really low attack as well, so this should be a lethal. Yeah, there goes the Vengeance, and now Blessing of Targon going to come out. So a, what do you call it? Another Stun spell or a Recall would save Grapplr here, but they've only got 5 cards in hand, right? Like, that is not a Karma and a Set and a Pack Your Bags and another Vengeance and a Recall. Like, so unfortunately Grapplr does go down here. I said unfortunately, like, it's not me on the bottom. Like, I'm not casting my own game. My caster innate ability to not bias towards the bottom player is stopping me from biasing towards myself. I never thought I'd see the day. So now I'm going to pick up a game with, or, you know, play a game, rather, of my Mordekaiser Endure. Just taking a look at the Nasus list, seeing if, because I forgot it was Mordekaiser. I thought it was Senna, so I was looking for Castigate, and I didn't see it. And now I'm, like, checking to see if there was Ruination and Withering Wail. And so we are heading back in. As you can see, I'm using the World Champion title. I earned that, you know. For everyone that forgets, I was a World Champion in Force of Will 2016, almost 8 years ago. It's been a while, but, you know, that's the cool thing about titles. They don't go anywhere. So, my opening hand, not looking as aggressive as I would like, but there's a lot of potential for it to explode because I do have the Cursed Keeper. Ceaseless Sentry at the draw. Again, a little slower than I'd like. And if you're wondering why Ceaseless Sentry over Avarosan Sentry, there's no reason. I just thought, you know, I like this one a little bit more. It's a newer card. It's in Standard. You know, whatever. And Grappler's actually going to go hard my Cursed Keeper in order to stop me from, you know, maybe reviving it or taking advantage of it later on, or they're just going to have an easier time blocking down this 4-3. It's a pretty common line from way back in the day of Endor where, like, people would leave the Cursed Keeper around because they're like, oh, yeah, you know, like, I can delay the 4-4. You can't delay the 4-4. Your opponent is going to use Sacrifice Fodder, and this was Grappler, for the most part, just, like, playing around Bladed Caretaker, right? Making sure that I didn't get to carry that into my turn 3 attack token and absolutely obliterate them. So, while it might look a little weird to a couple of the viewers, I'm sure most of you understand why that was a pretty good play from Grap. Now we're just going to trade some units. I don't have Mordekaiser, but I do have Babbling Bjerg, and again, that is one of the reasons that I like the Freljord version of this deck so much, and I pick up a Mordekaiser anyway. There's an Eye of the Dragon, haven't seen one of those in a couple of years, and I'm just going to Bjerg anyway. You know, Ceaseless Sentry Float spell mana, not super useful, especially with how light my turn 5 is looking anyway. I'd rather get the Mordekaiser out of my deck and potentially draw it, and Grap is really trying to wall up here, going for the Eye of the Dragon, like the proactive tag out to get Eye of the Dragon procs. Going into my attack token. Let's see what the draw is. It's a Hate Spike. Again, Hate Spike nerf. None of us had gotten to play with the patch either, and that's part of the reason that I wanted to go for, what do you call it? One of the reasons I wanted to play Eternal rather than Standard is, like, I hadn't played with the patch at all, because the patch hit Wednesday, and I was flying all day Wednesday, so, I also screwed up by, I updated LoR on my laptop, but not on my phone, because I always just play on my desktop, and so I couldn't download the patch because the patch was too big for my phone. It was like 5 gigabytes, because I haven't played LoR on my phone in, like, years. Anyway. Grappler's going to throw down a set. I'm going to pull it to the side, go in for a full attack. Grap's going to block a little bit of damage while the Eye survives. And then, with 2 mana, I'm, like, kind of safe to Hate Spike here, but I also kind of don't care about my board, and because we're getting close to the Mordekaiser turn, and that Hate Spike is the only sacrifice card that I have, it felt more pertinent to hold it back. Like, I don't care that this Escaped Abomination is going down to set. That doesn't really matter to me. I feel like I really just want to save that Hate Spike for the Mordekaiser turn and have that big explosive turn 7, and so gonna even bank the spell mana here. Endor comes down, and again, I can get that a little bit bigger when Mordekaiser comes into play because it's an on-summon effect to gain the stats. But again, will not grow in play like Nasus does, so something to keep in mind. Karma comes through, and again, like, the Hate Spike's looking kind of juicy, but what do I really care about a random spell? We're pretty far away from turn 10. And ultimately, with Mordekaiser and Rekindler in my hand against a control deck that doesn't play Ruination, I just kind of feel like I'm in a winning position and I'm not forced to do anything. I'm really not that afraid of a turn 10 Karma here. I feel like I've got the ability to grind that out as long as there's no Ruination. And so, like, Grappler's going to go for the Explorer's Blunder. Now, I could proactively Hate Spike or Glimpse Beyond. Like here, Grappler's completely tapped out. I could absolutely, like, Hate Spike my Endor into Set or Karma and get a 7/7, but instead, I just let it all go. It would also regain the Overwhelm, right? But now that there's just a bunch of 1/1s, I don't really care. Like, I'm looking at Grappler's hand of 4 cards plus a random Karma spell, and I'm just not feeling very threatened. Especially with a Mordekaiser and a Rekindler in hand. So, I'm going to try to play the Rekindler spam game. I actually should have probably blocked with the 1/1 here for board space. But I blocked with the Endor because I know I'm about to reset it anyway. Because I want it to be larger. But definitely should have sacked the 1/1 just, if for no other reason, board space purposes. Because now I'm looking at my Wings in the Wave and I'm like, oh, yeah, there's a little Earthquake. Classic California earthquake in the middle of the tournament. Classic Boulevard reaction to anything happening. So Grappler's actually going to vial my Spiderling, which helps me out of my own misplay, so that I can get the double Mord. And again, like, I'm looking at 4 mana on Grappler's side, no attack token, just not really feeling the pressure here. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the round. I'm going to challenge Grappler's champions and just kind of see where we go, because we are still on turn 9. I have another Mordekaiser in hand should things go sideways. I still have this Rekindler and a couple of different ways to sack it, to protect it. And so we go into combat. I'm actually going to hit fast forward here, because I think Grapplr thinks for a little bit, or at least like actions take a little while. Whoopsie. So Grapplr used Ionia Tellstones into Shen spell, right? It's pretty obvious. And now I'm thinking like, okay, how do I want to play this hate spike? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I decide on this, so I am going to get the Bjerg dead. I am going to still kill the Eye of the Dragon. Like, I don't want to sack Kindler, because I want Eye of the Dragon. I still want the damage to go through from the wings in the way. So I'm like, yeah, I'll sack Bjerg. You can keep Spiderling. I'll pop the spell shield, or the barrier, rather, on the Karma so that I can take that champion out, because I am a little afraid of that one. But, like, again, with 2 Mordekaisers, not super threatened. With a Titanic unit like this, even if Grapplr does manage to pull off a Pack Your Bags, the thing about Karma is that she won't double Pack Your Bags. She'll, like, double up a Go Hard into a pack, or, like, the pack will turn into a Go Hard on the next iteration. And so there's actually no way to wipe these Mordekaisers. And I, again, still have all this sack fodder for the Rekindler. And Grapplr has a couple of randomly generated spells still. So you're going to see a tag out onto my Mordekaiser. I'm thinking about that one. You know, I've still got this Glimpse Beyond. I've still got this Grasp of the Undying, but Grappler's tapped out. So I'm going to let that go. And then when Grapplr goes to kill my second Mordekaiser, that is when I'm going to throw out the Grasp of the Undying, take out one of these champions, and reanimate my Rekindler, and just hopefully start to win the game from there. So there's the Showstopper under the Rekindler. Again, I only play 1 copy of this card because I'm running a little greedy and you are a little more Endure focused. The ratios on these decks not solved by any stretch of the imagination. But that is going to get me yet another healthy Mordekaiser. And this Showstopper's not doubled because we are on turn 9. It's going to be really hard for Grapplr to get a second Showstopper on the following turn. And then I'm thinking about glimpsing just to reset the health of my Endure, but instead, knowing that we're going into Grappler's attack token, I just want to take the Challenger off the set. Another sacrifice spell. It's sort of the perfect top deck for me here. I'm just sitting on 3 Death Realms.
Nobody's tougher than me. Beat losers, get paid.
Yeah, Grappler's going to throw out the attack. It's going to be an instant skip block from me, an instant pass back over. Because Grappler's the one that has to develop. There's a Go Hard onto Mordekaiser. That is Go Hard number 2. First one was used on the Spiderling to clean up my board a little bit. There is another Go Hard by Grapplr. And now I'm thinking, okay. At this point, I'm going back to count the Go Hards. Or sorry, not onto the Spiderling. It was onto the Curse Keeper turn 2. So I'm going to let that go, knowing that Pack is a bunch of mana. And so I'm going to go for the Death Realm here, because if Grapplr doesn't... if Grapplr denies this, then they can no longer play Pack Your Bags. And I don't think there was, like, Will of Ionia. I think a tag out would have been used to save the Karma a little more Oh, no, tag out was used to save the Karma. So, like, it's a, you know, it's a little susceptible to, like, tag out. But again, I just have, like, so many Mordekaisers in my hand, and Grappler's starting to kind of run low on cards that I'm like, it's probably fine. They're going to go for a Thread the Needle onto the Mordekaiser to make sure that my entire board stays dead, but I have the Grasp of the Undying, and that's going to give me just a full board, an 18-18 Endure. Yeah, definitely a little greedy with the Death Realm, but I was pretty confident that it was going to work out. And it did, so... yeah, kind of hard to defend that one, honestly. Looking back at it, I don't love that play. I think it was, like, ballsy, but I think it had huge potential to backfire what was otherwise a winning position. But it works out. All those animations finally play out. Grapplr has 1 mana going into my attack token with just an absolute bevy of units here. And I am going to pick up round number 1, 2-0. Game score does matter. The way that the point system works is, so each game win is 1 point. So at the end, you're sort of tallying your team's points. For example, like if I win 2-0, and Ian loses 1-2, then we win that set because we have 3 points to 2 points. And that counts as a win. And then I believe that standings were actually determined by like your team's point totals rather than, you know, your actual win-loss record in individual sets. So it is important that I 2-0'd there. All right, coming at you with round number 2. This time I was up against Mr. Bear. Who is on triple War Mother's Call. We've got the classic Shadow Isle with Trundle Lysandra, we've got the Karma set, and we've got the Volibear Elder Dragon. And I'm trying to decide which one I am the most afraid of, and I believe I end up just checking like how many She Who Wanders are in each of these lists, and I noticed that there is only She Who Wanders in the Shadow Isle version, or at least that is the one that is running the most copies. There might be like one She Who Wanders in the Volibear, but basically, it was just a check for, like, how many She Who Wanders are in all these decks. Okay, yeah, we're going to take out that one. Mr. Bear being a little friendly. I am...
triple War Mothers. This one? It's War Mothers. I'm in for a rough one.
Alright, yeah, triple She Who Wanders in the Volibear version, but I think there might have been, like, a Ruination in the Shadow Isle version. I don't exactly remember. What do I type here? Oh, yeah, I decided it's too late. I don't know when he actually sent that, so I was like, okay, you know what? It's too late to respond. We're just going to have to let it rock. So they banned my Endure, and so I haven't played Seraphine yet, so I look at it and go, no, I really like this Aphelios Elder Dragon deck. I just want to play this deck as much as possible. I also think it's probably a little bit easier to pick up a win with this deck, because it can play a little bit more aggressively. Now, there is a Chained Caster in both of my Targon lists, the idea being that in Aphelios, I get to use it to, like, turn 3, Nightfall Aphelios, turn 4, Shackles, Nightfall the weapon. So, like, you know, relatively cool. Obviously not great, it's just like a pure unit, but again, because I'm playing like Plaza Guardian and Burblefish, it'll also reduce the cost of that. Like, I just want units that make spells, right? And then in the Seraphine deck, I was trying one copy as well because of Sunken Temple, right? As well as Shackles likely being a unique spell for the Seraphine. So just kind of trying it out. Like, just think of it as a Targon unit that generates a spell, right? It's still just a 2-mana 3/2, though, at the end of the day. You can do it with spell mana. There's a little bit more to it, but for the most part, you know, don't try to play it like an aggro card. It's probably not going to work out. So, hand is a little aggressive. I don't remember if there's, like, Boulevard in the tournament might remember, but Boulevard doing the voiceover doesn't remember if there are avalanches in this deck. But even if there are, then I've got the Pale Cascade, and there's just a Wild Mysticism. That's all well and good. Same amount of damage, plus now I get my gem. I'm actually going to Pale, which to me either sounds like there's no avalanche, or I'm just not respecting avalanche, and I think it's just that there was no avalanche. And I'm just trying to keep as many units on the board as possible to jam things, you know, balls to the wall. Because this isn't a Trundle version, their turn 5 should be relatively weak. And so that's a good time to get down some more units. Like, if they play another ramp spell, then so be it. But it's actually going to be the Flame Caller that I kind of constantly forget about. And we're just going to go for Aphelios. This is probably a Gravitum. Stun out that blocker. They get a 6-drop into play. And we just kind of see what happens from there. Unfortunately, Bear has 2 spell mana still, so even if I go for the stun into the Falling Star, the Sky Splitter will still save it. And they're actually going to get down to Celia, Figurehead of the Deep. Which, again, like, I have Gravitum plus Falling Star, so I could kill the Acelia. But the fact that it has, what do you call it, Deathless makes it a little less appealing of a target, so I'm just going to try to go wide. Take the Calibrum to try to finish off the Acelia, either after it blocks one of my units, or if it trades with the Mountain Goat, then I'll try to take it out with the, you know, take out the Deathless version of it. But I actually get pretty lucky here and hit the Nightfall unit that's going to behold my Aphelios and give me back a little bit of spell mana. So, no huge implications for it here, other than pushing 1 more damage with the Zoe. Which I decide is worth it, because I am trying to just push damage. And I think that gem kind of gives Bear the nod off that I'm just trying to play as aggressively as possible. And so, bing, bang, boom, there's a good amount of damage. Burblefish, not a bad pickup either. We've also got Captain Erika to deal with either the scaling unit or take away the Acelia. Bear has a difficult decision ahead of him, so just going to take his time on this while I click on the KDA board. You know, I don't own the KDA board. Never used it, but I do like clicking on it when my opponent's here. You can just see me here testing out the different sounds the boards make when you click on them. It's great content. Yeah, Bear probably just has a number of 6-drops in hand and is trying to figure out, like, okay, yeah, you know, like, if I Flame Spitter here, what happens? I've got the star chart as well, so if I pull Crescent Strike, what does that look like? How can they set themselves up to be in the best position on the following turn? And they eventually decide on Winter's Breath, which I don't think I peeped in the deck list, so this was a little bit of a surprise to me. And because of the way Winter's Breath works, I can't buff anything outside of the range. It's too late to hush the Acelia, so I'm just going to lose my entire board here. I do have a second copy of Zoe, though. And Bear is cognizant of Falling Star, so will not attack with the Acelia. I'm going to take advantage of my mana here. I can use Serpent to try and challenge the Acelia at the beginning of the next round. Gonna gem up my Zoe to be mana efficient before I play my Burblefish. My heater just turned off. No. Got the heater working again. Got some units in play. And I'm not going to go for a lethal push here. You know, there's a decent amount of Frostbite. There's Catalyst of Aeon, so, like, there's healing and stuff. And, yeah, I would have had to... once I'm in combat, I can't do it. I would have had to have, like, gemmed pre-combat in order to go for this. I'm not really sure what I was holding mana up for specifically here. But we do see the Catalyst, so even if I had gone for it, wouldn't have worked out. And now we're just going to Captain Eureka to take away that Acelia, stop that double up from happening. And then I decided to throw down my Duskbringer as well. You know, just keep units in play. And that's actually going to be more relevant than you could ever possibly imagine here. No, it's not. I thought I was getting Volibear. As you can tell, it's been a week since I played this tournament. I don't remember exactly what happened in what order. So what is going to happen here is with Challenger going down on the She Who Wanders, I'm going to see what I can pull out of Super Cool Star Chart first, if I can get a Crescent Strike or an Equinox. And now that I know that I can take the Challenger away, I'm going to go ahead and save Zoe so that I have an elusive threat. Might have been better to save Burblefish, because then I can get that up to 7. You know, and have exact lethal. But I'm actually so close to leveling the Zoe, at 9 out of 10 here, as you can see, that the gem will also push her to 7. So same damage either way. And now it's just a question of, am I comfortable going to 1 against War Mothers? And the answer, I don't see why not. Don't you dare block Boulevard. Maybe you think it doesn't matter. There's no atrocity. What are you thinking of blocking for? What is that? You're so afraid. And for what? I guess actually Sky Splitter would be lethal. So not the most unreasonable block, I guess. It's not like Acelia doubling anything at fast speed actually matters, right? They do get 2 draws here, though, and that is something that is a little scary. But yeah, just playing around Sky Splitter to not die and getting punished by our opponent drawing a few more cards. You know, I guess it wasn't the worst play in the world to block, but no, it was the worst play in the world. They can't Sky Splitter once they're in combat. I shouldn't have blocked Boulevard. So I gemmed the Zoe, but I've already played a gem, so now I have to Messenger Civil to level it. Not the cleanest game out of Young Bully that we've ever seen. And so now it's close our eyes and pray they don't have a Frostbite spell. Watch my face here. You can see me... That was me seeing a burst speed spell go on the stack and going, ah, shit, it's Frostbite. And then it wasn't Frostbite. So yeah, you can see my reaction there. I am quite shocked that I was able to get away with that. Definitely didn't feel like I should have been the one winning that game, but sometimes you pick up the W anyway. Just let Bear draw 2 cards that they shouldn't have because we blocked and let the Acelia come back for more draws, and it ultimately didn't matter, but you'd like to see Boulevard clean it up in the future. And now, Seraphine Morgana Victor. Again, this was basically for all W's list with a couple of tweaks. The main ones obviously being that because I am playing Zoe and Aphelios in a different deck, I put in Morgana and Viktor as my additional champions. Because I really needed the spell-focused champions in the Plaza Guardian Burblefish deck. So it's a consideration that I made. We're up against the same elemental-based Elder Dragon list here. And full Unspeakable Horror, which, you know, not a bad pull. It's direct damage, and again, I'm just going to try to play as aggressively as possible. Well, not as aggressively as possible. It feels weird to say that and be like, oh yeah, there's a 1-drop that I'm greeting for value that I didn't feel like running out on turn 1 for an open attack. So, it really doesn't feel correct to say as greedy as possible, or as aggressive as possible, you know? But we are going to see if we can just have Viktor take over this game. We're quite a ways away from She Who Wanders. There's not really any kill spells coming out of Elder. It's really just about, like, I want to say Enraged Fire Spitter challenging it, or another one of the 6-drops getting Challenger. But that's something Viktor might be able to mitigate a little bit, and we're looking at the burn in our hand thinking, okay, yeah, you know, like, maybe this isn't relegated to the face, maybe this is relegated to protecting Viktor. Like, if Fire Spitter comes down and Bear wants to try and challenge Viktor, I can hit that with a Mystic Shot and a Sump Fumes to protect it, and really just try to let this keyword soup start to run away with the game. You know, good old classic Runeterra. So, see what I can pull here on the first keyword. Fearsome, Elusive, Regen. Wouldn't be upset at any of these. And we are going to get Impact, which I say, you know what? Let's just ship it. And let's ship the Seraphine as well. We've got a Pale Cascade. Why not ship it? Why not start to clear out blockers? So Bear's looking at this like, what the hell is this guy doing? I'm ready for it. Yeah. Oh, and I just let that go. I thought that was a pretty nice Pale. I guess I'll finish it off with Unspeakable later. I've got time, I guess. And now I pick up Stuttering Song Spinner, so pretty close to... Like, that's going to put a lot of power into Viktor, as well as the Seraphine level up. There's that Fire Spitter I was worried about. And so, Impact is going to get thrown on. I Pale for no draw. And just hit the pass button. And now we're just going to shackle that up. Not feeling too bad about this next attack token turn. Although, don't have a clean way to get rid of the blocker. We pull Faded onto Viktor, which not super useful. So now it's a matter of, yeah, I can open attack, but what am I really open attacking with? So we'll go ahead and give Bear the opportunity to unshackle the Enraged Fire Spitter. See what we can pull onto Viktor here. We get quick attack, which is going to make this a lot more suitable as a carry option. And again, playing a little more fast and loose than I'd probably like to see out of a player. Again, this is like a tournament setting. We're not playing for nothing. I'd like to see myself, past myself, take this a little more seriously. But, you know, now looking back on it, I do find some of my plays a little weird, a little questionable. And it just goes to remind you all that we're all human. I literally took a sip the same second past Boulevard did. I'm taking another one now to desync myself from them. Okay, yeah, there's the Unshackle. Do you have a second Fire Spitter is really the question we're asking here. And even if they do, we can kind of rip a Song Spinner and see what we find there. But no, it's actually just the Unshackle. And so it's just going to be the Viktor going in. You know, let's see if we can get a Frostbite out. It's not the case. Just a little block thrown in front. And we're getting really close to... Yeah, we're on 10 mana now for Bear. Which means She Who Wanders will do a number on my board. And that is why I'm Zonite Urchining, or thinking about Zonite Urchining my Cosmic Youngling. And then I'm saying, you know what, actually, let's just go ahead and play out all these other cards. I'm not really in love with any of these, especially given that, like, I believe a She Who Wanders is coming. So we'll Tricksy Tentacles and see what we can get out of our opponent here. Is going to be a Sky Splitter. Not the most useful pickup. Key Guardian. We don't really want to draw cards when we're expecting the She Who Wanders, and the last hit on the Song Spinner just kind of rough. So there's the She Who Wanders. Going to lose a few units here. Not too worried about it, though, because the Viktor is persisting, and we have ways to protect it from this Fire Spitter. And that's exactly what we're going to see here. Just set it up for a the Nightfall spell that I pulled. Again, see what we can pull out of this. And it is going to be Evershade Stalker. Not really sure what I even would have liked to see out of that Nightfall spell. You know, there's nothing that's really going to help me deal with the situation, but one thing I don't know if I notice is how many cards that hit out of Bear's hand. So they're down to just 3 cards here off of the She Who Wanders. And I still have this Viktor that is continuing to scale up and is actually leveling here. Pulling Spell Shield doesn't feel bad. Also have Challenger and Quick Attack, but now we get to see that the Evershade Stalker was actually exactly what I needed to win this game, because I see that my opponent's defenses are completely down. I have a Viktor with Augment, I have 1 mana Evershade Stalkers, and I have a Stun 2 in my hand. And so, just gonna keep running out Evershade Stalkers until the board is full. There was like a half second where I was like, oh, what can I, challenge with Viktor? And then I was like, wait, this is just lethal. That one's for the VOD. But yeah, that is me getting another 2-0 victory here. So, doing better than I expected. And having fun doing it. Alright, so here in round number 3, we're up against Snnuy. On Draven Rumble and Galio Udyr. I decided to take out the Neela Twisted Fate as my lineup isn't super great at handling champion-reliant strategies. Obviously, Targon Elder Dragon isn't offering a lot in the ways of removal outside of Aphelios. Or Aphelios? I don't know why I felt tempted to call it Aphelios there. Targon for my Seraphine is not as good of a supporting region for dealing with large units as something like Ionia is. And then, again, because my Mordekaiser is more aggressive, more Endure Spiders, like not running Vengeance or Ruination or anything like that. So I'm feeling pretty confident with an Aphelios in the open... Why do I keep saying Aphelios? I don't call him that. With an Aphelios in the opening hand up against, the Draven Rumble, and we even get Chained Caster, the card that I was able to reveal, very happy. And yeah, I played 1 copy of this in both this list as well as my Seraphine list, and so in a matchup like this, you kind of get to see what it does for an Aphelios archetype. I really wanted to hop into an AI game to test out Chained Caster before the tournament actually started, because I feel like it's the kind of card where the first time you play it, you're going to figure out how you feel about it, and I just kind of wanted to get that done, but turns out, because I made Chaincaster all of my deck covers, there was a bit of an issue with just a bug on the client where if you made something else your deck cover, you couldn't get into AI games. Anyway, didn't go for the attack there, because I feel like the 1 damage isn't as important as keeping around my Cosmic Youngling if there was something like a Mystic Shot coming out of my opponent. So, just going to go ahead and take this damage. Obviously don't want to get hit with the potential for a Mystic Shot again. And now Chained Caster, like, this is the kind of situation where this card is going to really shine. This is sort of one of the best use cases where, turn 2, I really wanted to get down the Youngling because I'm against an aggressive deck, but then I don't have a 1-mana Nightfall option available for my Aphelios, and so Chained Caster gets to come in and, sort of post-combat, get me in there, get that Gravitum going. And then I'm going to go ahead and offer up a pass, even though I haven't played my Shackles yet, because I'm looking for a little bit of a higher priority Gravitum target, or I'm just waiting for Snnuy to commit a little bit of mana so that I can go for the Gravitum Falling Star onto the Draven. And then we'll kind of figure out where the Shackles plays into things a little bit later on. I also have this Atani Dragon Worshipper, which after this tournament, I ended up cutting from the list. It doesn't synergize super well in either the Standard or Eternal versions, mostly because it doesn't make a spell. It's bad late-game top deck. But we are going to get our Aphelios targeted here, and I decide not to waste any cards doing this, so I go for the Guiding Touch, and because I find a second copy of Aphelios, I'm a lot more willing to just let this go. I know that Sunny's pretty limited on the amount of ways that they have to deal with Aphelios. Now, I do kind of forget about Get Excited, just in general. You know, it's been so long since I've seen that card that I just kind of... we'll see if it comes back to bite me later on, but... We're going to go for the Crescendum here because, you know, we got a second Aphelios. I'm just going to grab a Severum because at this point it's pretty obvious that Sunny doesn't have a Rumble. They would have thrown it down already. And as long as there's not a Rumble, then I think Severum's a perfectly fine way for me to get through this game. And I managed to hit another Cosmic Youngling because I am the main character. Look at that hair. You know, that's some anime main character nonsense going on right there. Now, I actually just decided to pass without Nightfalling for another weapon, because I can just go for the Gravitum on the following turn, or at least hang out and see what Sunny wants to do. And they actually go for Blowback again onto the Aphelios this time. Pale Cascade, gonna keep him nice and alive. And so I'm falling a little low here, but because I hit the Cosmic Youngling off of the Crescendum, again, really not too worried about it. And now I'm gonna go for the Gravitum onto the Draven for the Falling Star combo, grab that Crescendum. I still have the Guiding Touch to heal Aphelios back up if they do have a Mystic Shot, which they do. And again, with double Cosmic Youngling and a Tawny Dragon Worshipper especially, not too concerned about using that on my face. And we're going to go for the Falling Star here rather than the Crescendum to level the Aphelios. I actually don't even think Aphelios is close to leveling yet. And there's a second Mystic Shot. You know, what can you do? Still, that's a lot of burn out of Sunny to deal with the Aphelios. Yeah, you know, the two blowbacks still went at my face, but the double Mystic Shot certainly feels pretty good. Especially, again, in a situation where we're very aware that they don't have a Rumble, and I've got two Cosmic Younglings. So the fact that they are now even more down on burn, the fact that all of their burn is going to cause them to discard cards. Like, yeah, Rumble is going to be a little bit of a pain if it does come through. I don't have a clean answer for it right now unless I can roll Challenger onto either Captain Erika or Plaza Guardian. And there is a Rumble with a full discard. Going to be a Grenadier, a Get Excited, and another Get Excited. So just a lot of burn loaded into Sunny's hand. If I did not have these Cosmic Younglings, I would be dead in the water. But we're going to unshackle the Chained Caster so that we have an additional blocker, and then gonna look at our options here. Nothing's like, oh yeah, this is a great blocker. Unfortunately, don't have a way to pop the Spell Shield to get a Rika through at the moment, so we're just gonna throw down another Youngling, probably just take the Rumble damage and then start to let these Younglings sort of build us back up to a healthy life total. Even going to Pale Cascade for the draw, as well as to take out that Flame Chompers so that this little trick doesn't work later down the line in case there's something that I really want to block the Rumble with. For example, like if I could roll Tough onto a Plaza Guardian, that's going to take out the Rumble. So we've got a couple of options here on how to actually deal with this, and then I go ahead and just draw a third Aphelios. Feels pretty good. So we're going to Crescendum first so that Aphelios is outside the range of all of these different, you know, burn spells that Sunny could have available, but Severum plus Plaza Guardian feels like it's going to be the end of the game. There's an Enraged Fire Spitter. Not a bad top deck, especially clearing out one of those, you know, little guys. But, okay, we get Tough, but now Sunny has a Challenger, and so it's not quite the answer I was looking for. But we can go ahead and Aphelios a Gravitum, use that immediately onto the Fire Spitter so that there's no challenge next turn. Grab an Infernum. Like, I could have gone for a Severum line here. But ultimately, I feel like 11 is still a healthy enough life total that I'm not really pressed for it. Next attack token almost certainly would be forced to go for a Severum line. At the very... if for no other reason than to, like, try and survive should this Rumble... Like if Sunny top decks Might, or even just a level 2 Rumble with a Might potential top deck over the next couple of turns. It's very intimidating. And so I grab Infernum because I'm looking for lethal on the following turn, but it doesn't matter because Sunny is going to fall here, and so far we are 3-0 with the Aphelios Elder Dragon. This deck is, you know, it was an original deck that I had come up with sort of like the night before, morning of, so I'm very happy that I've been able to not only play it every round, but that it has been performing every round. And now we're up against Burn with the Mordekaiser Spiders, which, like, this isn't a horrible matchup. In a situation where I can get a big Endure early on and actually just block the Rumble, I think that's a pretty solid position to be in. Now, obviously, Whirling Death is going to play a factor here, but I have options is kind of what I'm getting at. And honestly, a Vile Feast, Keeper, Blighted Caretaker opener is not a bad way to do it. Unfortunately, I don't have token on odds, so it's not going to be as good as I want it to, but a Bark Beast off the top makes me feel a little bit better about what we've got going on here. Gonna kind of let this one. I feel like I've been filling every single second with talking. It's nice to take a little breather. It's gonna be the Mystic Shot onto the Bark Beast to make sure that I don't get this 3/3 because that is a rather effective blocker in a matchup like this. And when I don't have the level of healing that I do in something like Targon Elder Dragon, I'm not as happy to see Snnuy throwing their burn at my units. But we've got a decent blocker here in a Ceaseless Sentry. Just kind of willing to take the trade here, but Snnuy isn't, so they back out. But we still got that Cursed Keeper, Blighted Caretaker. Only problem is that Draven has been rebuffed to a 3/3 from a 3/2, so wouldn't actually take it out. In fact, would just give another Spinning Axe over to Snnuy. That discard fodder really starts to stack up, get a little intimidating. And something I'm always going to be cognizant of when playing against Draven, especially aggressive Draven lists, is just the potential of Draven's Whirling Death. And so, debating if I want to go in with a 4/3, decide that this is a matchup where I probably don't need to win through incremental damage. If I'm going to win, it'll probably be with like one huge blowout take over the board turn, or like a level 2 Mordekaiser, a Giant Endure, something along those lines. I don't think putting Snnuy at 15 and opening myself up to the possibility of, no, I really should have just attacked. Like, if Snnuy Whirling Death's there, that's so fine, right? I really should have just gone for the attack. As much as I don't think the incremental damage, like, does matter that much, I should have just attacked there. Just full send it. Like, what? Am I really that afraid of Whirling Death? If they have it, they have it. That is probably, like, the least impactful Whirling Death they could have gotten. I should have just sent it. But I didn't. So I go for the Explorer's Blunder, you know, mostly because I drew Death's Grasp. So if Rumble does come down, I have a way to pop the Spell Shield and then instantly hit it for that damage. The scary part right now, though, is that all of my units died of blowback. So if I have to use a sacrifice-style ability in order to send in the cavalry, I am incredibly susceptible to that, mana-dependent on Snnuy side, but at the moment, even if they Rumble next turn and I try to go for something like that, they will have Get Excited mana. And I'm just trying to, you know, take all these blocks, build up the Endure. We're getting close to the Mordekaiser turn. I'm kind of, like, forced to go for the Bjerg on the following turn. We get an Axe out of Snnuy to go for the trade, and I believe this is going to get a Vile Feast out of me. Please, Vile Feast. I don't know why you wouldn't. Thank you. So this doesn't feel bad, you know, there's an ability to take out the Augmented Clockling on the following turn. There's still a Giant Poro in the background of me. Like, life is good. Now, unfortunately, because I am more of an Endure deck than a Mordekaiser deck, I play a lot of 1-drops. I think it's like triple Hapless, double Ravenous Butcher, it's just kind of a 1-drop, just in terms of, like, the late game top deck potential. 2 Wings in the Wave, 2 Bark Beast, and so yeah, this Hapless Aristocrat draw doesn't feel good, but I do still have like a solid Mordekaiser hand in terms of like Bjerg will tutor up the Mordekaiser, we have the Legion of the Severed, we have the Rekindler, we have a spell to play with the Rekindler to get another Mordekaiser. Unfortunately, this just isn't really a matchup where that's the half of my deck that I want. And so the Mordekaiser top deck as well, you know, feels a little awkward here. Trying to debate, you know, do I want to like sacrifice a Mordekaiser to a Enraged Fire Spitter Spinning Axe combination? And I decided the answer is yeah, that's fine by me. I've still got the Grasp mana. I'm going to tutor up yet another Mordekaiser here. And ultimately, if we can level Mordekaiser, things are looking really solid. But can we do that is the big question. So Snnuy pulls the Overwhelm Blade onto the Enraged Fire Spitter, pulls my Spiderling, goes in for the full send. There is a challenge onto the Mordekaiser drag to the end of the line. I am looking at minus 19 HP on my 15 health Nexus, but there isn't mana for Snnuy to have anything additional here. And now I'm kind of debating, okay, how much damage can I take? What am I trying to do here? This feels incredibly safe for my life total, but unfortunately does still mean that we are not leveling Mordekaiser anytime soon. Draven is also surviving. We're stopping Rumble damage here, but it probably would have been better to sack whatever was blocking the Draven. Or at the very least, like, I don't love the way that this was played. I really don't. I'd like to go back and look at that combat a little bit later on, but I think there was like 4 or 5 better ways for me to line up those blocks and play those spells out. Draw another Hapless Aristocrat, which doesn't feel good. We're just going to send Mordekaiser straight in at the Rumble and kind of see what happens here. Throw Bjerg into combat. Nope, never mind. Again, just like, why not throw the Bjerg into combat? If Whirling Death is happening, it's happening right here, right now. Mordekaiser falls down to 3, which is not really where we want him, and Snnuy plays another Elusive, which is starting to intimidate me greatly. Debating using this Explorer's Blunder onto the 2/2, but ultimately deciding that I should save it in case there is a Rumble coming through. Because at the moment I do have mana for, like, Blunder plus Death Realm. It's weird how little fear I played with against Grapplr's Spooky Karma, and how much fear I am playing with against Snnuy here. So I'm really cognizant of, like, okay, there's 2 ways this could go. It's either, like, Might Whirling Death if I block. And I've been playing too respectfully of Whirling Death to the point where, like, if they probably very well could still have it. And so I'm debating, do I hit the pass button to play around the Might Whirling Death and put myself in the range of, like, blowback, get excited? But I think this is the point where I had forgotten about get excited, where I was like, oh yeah, you know, they already blowbacked once, I think, or like they would just have to have double blowback. And so I go for the Mordekaiser spell here because I just really don't have anything else to do, and I kind of want my Mordekaiser to die so I can go for the Rekindler, and this will level up the Mordekaiser as well. So, like, I don't really mind getting blowbacked here because, again, I am leveling the Mordekaiser, and that's kind of what I want. So next turn I can play the Rekindler. As long as there is not another burn spell in Snnuй's hand, then we should be able to start to stabilize from here, especially with a Glimpse Beyond. And so it's just a matter of, do they have another 3 damage spell? And I believe the answer is yes. Yeah, there's the Get Excited. They also had the Might. So again, I was trying to play around Might Whirling Death. And even if that was the game plan that I went in with, I don't think I did it properly. Ultimately, that was probably my most disappointing game of the day in terms of, like, how I played it, especially now looking back on it. But we're going to take this into Udyr Galio. I think this is Formidables with, you know, the new Freljord card, because it copies slow spells that are played, so obviously the sort of immediate implication that comes to people's mind is, like, stance swapping, because you're in Freljord, that's kind of what you do. And so kind of looking at our options here and saying, yeah, you know, Bladed Caretaker's probably a pretty good pickup, and yeah, this is looking like a really solid opener. Although, would need a little bit of mid-game scaling, and again, don't have token on odds. So we're just going to go in with the Hapless. Now, Stance Swap scares the shit out of me, because Ram Stance will just wipe my entire hand so far. It really turns off my Bladed Caretaker lines, and makes me have to play pretty respectfully of that, so until Snnuy actually commits that Stance Swap, I'm kind of held hostage, especially given the hand state. And so that's something where I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, you know, this is puzzle number 1 of this match. How do I get around this Ram Stance? And Snnuy's just going to offer me a pass. Looking at my hand, no reason for me to do anything. Yeah, I'll take that pass. Get a Bark Beast. So, run that out. If Ram Stance were to come out here, then I could go for a Glimpse Beyond to protect the Bark Beast. And still be kind of chilling, but they go for the new Udyr card. And I'm kind of sweating because I'm like, okay, if they Ram Stance Vulpine Wanderer, then they actually double Ram Stance. And so I'm like, okay, double Ram Stance would kill my Hapless anyway, so maybe I do that. But actually, no, I'm still going to go for this because the double Ram Stance doesn't actually kill the Vulpine Wanderer because I believe Ram Stance doesn't hit whatever you target. Yeah, so they're looking to go for the wipe, kind of debating what does that look like. And the answer is probably still taking a good bit of damage. So instead they go for Boar Stance and say, I'll just play the blocking game rather than the Ram Stance game. Because if they went for Ram Stance, then I could finish off the Vulpine Wanderer with the Vile Feast and feel like okay about that. And then Snnuy realizes like, hey, you know, I actually really don't want to Ram Stance this Vulpine Wanderer. I'll just take the damage and kind of go from there. Can hear people laughing in the background. I still don't know what all that was about. This is a tournament. This is serious business. What are we giggling for? So I've got Snnuy down to 9 here on turn 4. I'm feeling pretty good about how aggressively this has been going. Mordekaiser comes off the top to really solidify things. And then Udyr comes through. And now the stance swap costs 0, and I'm starting to sweat a little bit. This is where things could get out of hand pretty quickly. I haven't been very good at drawing Endure so far. And so Udyr can definitely start to outscale Mordekaiser, which is not something I was particularly prepared for when crafting my lineup. And this does count as 2 stances for the for Udyr, right? So only going to need 1 more stance to level up. I decided not to go for the double vial, instead deciding to save it as a way to stop Udyr from striking. Obviously I have the Glimpse Beyond, but I don't want to like use the Glimpse and then we get around to the next attack token and it's like, okay, yeah, here comes the Udyr full force. So I decided to save the vial. And there is a strike spell from Snnuy. Kind of makes me wish I had played this in the reverse order, like went for the vial first and then the Glimpse Beyond, but I don't know why I wasn't playing cognizantly of strike spells. We can see Ian starting to pop in. I don't even think I noticed Ian while this was happening. But third Vial Feast is not what I wanted to see. I decided that trying to push 2 damage through is just not what I want to be doing right now. I would lose pretty much my whole board. I would also lose, you know, the, or rather, Snnuy would gain a stance, so an open attack seemed pretty fruitless, and now Snnuy's going real wide and really projecting a Galio. But goes for a Vulpine Wanderer instead, which is going to be another stance for the Udyr, which is not good for me. That is what I was really trying to avoid with these Vial Feasts, and it is just not a fruitful endeavor. So we're going to hit the pass button, because honestly, if Snnuy passes here, I'd be pretty okay with that. But there is the Overwhelm stance, the Wild Claw stance, and now Udyr is going to be a 12-12 with Overwhelm. I'm just kind of looking at what I got. Like, yeah, I guess it's Mordekaiser time. Lock up a little bit better, but we are so far away from a Mordekaiser level that doesn't feel particularly helpful. Would need to draw another Mordekaiser. Like, if I draw another Mordekaiser and I can get the board wipe off, it actually doesn't matter, because that means Mordekaiser will challenge Udyr, and that will survive. So, yeah, it's kind of felt like a game where I just drew too many 1-drops, which, you know, too many Vial Feasts for sure. This is not a matchup. Like, Freljord Demacia is not where I want my 1-damage pings, especially against the opener that Snnuy had, so.
Please, I have connections.
Yeah, just gonna go for all of this. Try to finish off the Variety Patch card with the Vial Feast and see where we can get from there. But Snnuy has a trick up their sleeve as well. Or maybe they'll just hit okay. Again, don't really remember what happened.
They yet have hope, fools.
So we were only playing on one monitor, so I couldn't actually see what the stream, what the recording looked like. So like I didn't have my face cam on me, so I had no idea who was behind me at any time. Snnuy decides to just let it go though. Has another stance should they choose to use it. This one does cost mana, so we're gonna go for a Vile Feast to take out the unit. Just, you know, not a lot of reason to wait. It has regen, so I'm kind of forced to take the action now. And they have Troll Chant, which is not great for me. I'm trying to think of what my outs are at this point. I play one Atrocity, but even then, and I don't currently have anything big enough to make that worth it. And instead, I draw another Hapless Aristocrat, which you can see on my face there. Ian's shaking his head as well. And I'm realizing that this is just lethal, because again, I don't play any Vengeances, so nothing in my deck is going to be able to deal with that 12-12. Yeah, there you go. I don't want to take Sunny's win away. But yeah, things do not get better. Mordekaiser are leveled like post-combat, so it's like, yeah, there it goes. So for the final round of the tournament, I am up against Viktor Kav. And they are playing Aphelios Victor, which is a deck that I got off of in order to play my Elder Dragon deck, which I'm going to queue up first. They are also on Jax Ornn and Tristana Teemo. So I'm going ahead, taking a look at this Aphelios Victor, seeing what their win condition is, noting the 2 Expanses protection. And instead we are getting into Jax Ornn for game number 1. And again, I'm always queuing up my Aphelios Elder Dragon first, because like this deck is just so cool to me conceptually. I really like that it was something that I came up with the night before, while trying to figure out how to fit all these things into my lineup. I don't know. It feels good when you, like, conceptualize a deck and then you just get to bring it and, like, feel good about it. So I'm going to keep my 1-drop. I'm going to keep my Falling Star because this deals with Jax even through a Weaponsmith's Apprentice, which Victor does open with. But I do manage to dissuade the turn 1 attack and then see where we go from here. Oh, that was Missy bringing me... So there's, there's, like, a cafe in Riot HQ that's like Bilgewater themed, and Michelle was telling me that there was like an energy drink that they had that was like this green whatever, and I had been drinking like Red Bulls all day, so she brought me the energy drink because me and Ian were constantly the last ones to finish, and because it's more of a casual tournament, they would just instantly throw us into the next round, so we only ever had like a minute in between events. Okay, so that's Horned Swarmcaller. That's the card that Sunny spoiled. The 2 cards that I think struck everyone is really good were Horned Swarmcaller, and I don't know, people were talking about Chained Caster day 1, but then day 2 it seems like everyone was on the Elusive Bird. But this Stormcaller, I think everyone agreed was really good. Obviously fits into like any Elder Dragon list, and so I was obviously going to jam a 1 of into my Elder Dragon list because it's just a permanent quicksand. Like, it's so good. And so Victor runs out another unit here. I throw down a Unicorn. This Falling Star is finally looking good after a day of just finding mediocre matchups with this card.
Any takers?
There's 1 mana, but I decide that like if Victor wants to catch to trade on my Stellacorn, this is a matchup where I'm pretty okay with that. And we're just going to Falling Star to take out the Jax. Even if catch is here, doesn't matter. Ultimately feeling pretty good about that, but now I finally get some use out of this fucking Atani Dragon Worshipper. Underperforming for me pretty much throughout the entire day. You know, I wanted a way to, like, curve turn 4 into 6, just skip something if I could, but ultimately that's just not really how it had been working out, and again, did end up cutting it from the list when I got home and started playing something like this a little bit more. Captain Erika is going to be saved for the Ornn turns a little bit later on, so this is really just trying to ramp into the Stormcaller. Obviously, like, I could ramp into Winding Light as well, but that requires me to, like, you know, have the token on 6. Or token on... Yeah, token on 6, right? Because I would go from 5 to 6. 5 to 7, rather. I'm sitting here looking at 4 mana like, okay, I'm going to 6 mana. Why do I keep saying go to 6 when I'm going to 6 and I can't Winding Light? Which actually I could Winding Light here. I do have the Dust Petal Dust, so like this could just be like Dust Petal, Winding Light, but again, do not have the attack token, and we're going to save Erika for Ornn. That's really what she's here for. Jax Ornn is not a deck that pops Spell Shield very well, and again, Captain Erika is just one of the most powerful things that you can be doing with Elder Dragon in Eternal, and it was something that I really wanted to get in my lineup, so I'm happy that I was able to conceptualize something like this. But now we're just kind of waiting for Victor to play a card so we can jam this Giant Dragon in. They go for the Entrancing Lure. Probably just to draw a card again. Like, yeah, that doesn't feel like an attack that Victor cared about too much, as much as it is just a card. And so I'm looking at this like, yeah, I could take a trade here. Could also not. But what is this Atani Dragon Worshipper doing otherwise? Give your life for me. Do I really skip block here? Okay. I didn't feel necessary. But now Horned Swarmcaller is the biggest thing in play. And it has Fury. And it has Challenger. And for those of you that didn't catch what this card does, didn't catch the spoiler, Ian was supposed to spoil this, but I think gave it over to Snnuy. You pick 2 of your opponent's units, you give them -1 attack, and you take out all their keywords. And so, you know, we were all really excited for this coming into, like, a formidable meta. And we were like, oh, man. Because it's permanent, and it doesn't use the stack, so it should go through Spell Shield. So, like, this Horned Stormcaller, like, just turns off Galio. It's just, like, stuck there as a 0/8, no formidable. Actually, probably loses its Spell Shield, too, because it takes away all the keywords. So now I'm going to go for the Winding Light, because we are still 1 turn away from Ornn. So this is, like, a really nice push turn for me before I try to counter Ornn with Eureka. And there's no way for Jax Ornn with 3 mana to stop Eureka, right? You'd have to, like, fish fight to pop the Spell Shield, then fish fight again. There's not going to be anything big enough on the board to, like, entrancing LoR. And even if there is, then Ornn is coming out post-combat, and I can kind of deal with that later. But with the way that my hand is shaping up between the Eureka and the double stun, I'm just feeling really, really safe right now. It's just a little unfortunate for Viktor they didn't hit any of the mid-game units, you know, really looking for, like, a Glacial Saurian to try and be the biggest thing in play, and that's just an honor that I got from the Atani Dragon Worshipper into the Variety Patch card. And so it's really cool to see the Variety Patch card kind of shine here. Not so much for its ability, which is obviously one of the best things about it, but just being a 6/6 with Fury in a mid-range matchup is kind of all you needed it to do. And so now Viktor's looking at a lot of really bad blocks. And I will say, it did make my blocks a little more useful here, right? And that's probably why I didn't trade with the Atani Dragon Worshipper, because I was planning on Winding Light here. So good job, Past Boulevard, for not punting that. So a Troll Chant's going to come out in order to mitigate the damage a little bit, push some damage back onto a couple of my units. But ultimately, Viktor is losing a lot of their board here, and now gets to pick whatever weapon they want to put on to get the Ornn going with as well. Instead goes for double Yudalski Snow Dog. Would have liked to see those a lot earlier. No weapons equipped, going to bank the full 3 mana into the Ornn turn. I draw a second Eureka, and now I'm just feeling so incredibly safe. But, once again, didn't look at the deck list super closely, and it's starting to dawn on me that I don't remember if Viktor plays any copies of Buried in Ice. And so that's something that I'm going to have to keep in the back of my mind for the next little while. Now I'm just kind of waiting for the Ornn to come through. There's only 3 cards in hand. It's, you know, it's not like, oh yeah, there has to be an Ornn here. So the Jax weapon gets equipped. I smash the pass button. There comes Ornn copying the Jax weapon. And here comes Captain Eureka. Gonna grab Fearsome as well. I have a Challenger for one of these 3 attack units. I like, can attack with the Eureka because I have the double stun in case there's, like, some backup play that Viktor has in order to, you know, threaten her life and release the Ornn. But ultimately, feeling very in control of this match, especially with the second Eureka and just how low on cards Viktor is. This is a lot of downtime. Viktor obviously just kind of deciding, do I attack with these Yudalskis? If I sack these for a buff, is there anything that +2/+2 matters enough on to win me the game? Do I just lose if I swing with these and they get blocked by all these 4 health units? And it's actually going to be an entrancing lore onto the Yudalski. That's going to pull something around. Yeah, there goes my Cosmic Youngling. Bye-bye, Cosmic Youngling. And so, 1 Yudalski trigger. Nice. Oh, look. Hello, Cosmic Youngling. I'm just going to go in with my 4 attack units. I decide against attacking with Eureka, just in case there's a Sky Splitter or something. I'd really rather not use my Cosmic. But I realize if I pull the 3/4 Yudalski, I can go in with Atani. Feeling pretty good about these attacks. Again, just kind of watching the hand of Viktor, just noticing it's small. So if I can keep them off of units, and especially keep them off of units with subtypes, I can keep that Saurian at bay from getting them back into the game should it come off the top. And there's just another Piltover Castaway. Can't do anything about that. I might play... Oh, I play a Tawny here. Oh, yeah, because they're below Ornn mana. There's the Glacial Saurian. I want to be mana efficient, so I'm going to throw out a Youngling and just kind of sit on this Guiding Touch because I can do some cheeky things with it with the Winding Light or the Dragon, just kind of healing them up above this Castaway and getting like a Fury proc or something. Only 2 spells this game as I draw an 8 mana Plaza Guardian, but hey, that's just the way it goes sometimes. I'm just going to pass on that. Again, really want to hold Arika for a potential Ornn, as long as it's Victor's attack token.
Who's next? Bring it on!
With Jax coming through, though, there's only one unknown card in the hand from Viktor, and I decide that... Oh, it can't even be Ornn. Silly me. Well, it can be Ornn, but like they don't have the mana to play it, so I'm gonna go for the Oceanic Will. This is gonna, like, the healing on my units is actually really good for me here. Again, just like capturing another champion. Captain Arika, All-Star for Elder Dragon and Eternal. And now Victor's going to slam on some weapons. They have a very large Glacial Saurian that I don't really want to fuck with. Oh, actually decides to go with the Scout in first. Do they lock that in? I don't think they lock that in. Yeah, I think they just go back to the Saurian attack. Ooh. No, the Castaway? No, the Saurian. Okay, now that we've done that little song and dance, I can hit the skip block button and Guiding Touch my Winding Light. Find a Zoe. Which, pretty cool, but not super relevant. Like, yeah, it's a little late in the game for the Zoe. But it will be nice to be able to feed into my Plaza Guardian. Again, this is a point where, like, now that there's, like, a real threat on board in the form of the Glacial Saurian, I'm really starting to go, did Viktor run Buried in Ice? Like, my Arikas will persist, but that's not a lot. But I decided to run out the Zoe pre-combat. Give the check for the Buried in Ice. But it doesn't come. I decide I'm willing to trade my Sand Dragon just to get this Glacial Saurian out of play. It's a little bit too large, a little bit too scary. If the tempo somehow swings... Or, not the tempo, but the board somehow swings back into Victor's favor, that's a serious lethal threat that I would just rather not have them have around. You know, taking stock of the weapons. There's a weapon. Let's see what we can get out. Oh yeah, I was so scared here. Because, as you can see, my game's just kind of frozen. And I'm like, you can see me just kind of eyeballing it. Like, how long do I wait here before I decide? Okay. And luckily, me clicking the board didn't, like, pick one of the choices. But I don't know what happened. I was so scared that I was going to lose this game because... my game crashed, so glad that that wasn't the case.
Demacia will be whole once more.
Arika loses Spell Shield. I believe that's the one with the Ornn. And then a weapon equipment. But no fish fight. Just pop in the Spell Shield so that the option's available. We're in Tomb. You know, being a little mana efficient on the side of Viktor. I'm looking at my hand. I'm looking at this Challenger. Thinking about coming after the Zoe. Plays another Scholarly Pioneer first. And I go for the pass? Right, because I was waiting for the scout weapon to get locked in so that I could stun the one with the scout weapon. So there's still the opportunity, if I stun it, for Viktor to cycle the scout weapon off and then put the scout on the other challenger. I figure I might as well force them to do that. Because that should put the other one back at 4 power? Yeah, because I think they're both 3/4s. So if I stun this, and Viktor weapon cycles the other one to be a scout, then it'll also just be a 4/4, and then I can Pale Cascade Arika to get her outside of the range. But instead, Viktor goes after Zoe.
Had loggerheads, eh?
And sends in Piltover and Castaway. Do I Pale here for the block? Did I just double stun this? I don't think I double stun this. I think yeah, Pale for the block. See what we draw. It's Chained Caster. Hey, buddy. And just say, yeah, this is chill. I'll get to kill a unit with the second half of the Sleepy Trouble bubble. Or the Paddle Star, I guess, is actually the second half. I'm deciding, does it even matter? Decide I'll kill the one that's already a scout. Make them, you know, re-equip the weapon. And now I can start to do what my deck was supposed to do, which is throw down Plaza Guardians and Burblefish. There's only 4 spells in the Burblefish pool. So, got pretty good options. And again, this is where we're going to get really scared of Buried Nice. Actually goes for the 3 Sisters. Hits my Eureka with the Entomb. And brings back the Ornn. Who is leveled. Thanks to Glacial Saurian. Which, you know, the game's going to end before that matters, so we're just going to Wiggly Burblefish overwrite that. We're going to grab Tough, Fearsome, doesn't super matter in a matchup like this. We've got Messenger Sigil, which is an unfortunate side effect of being in Eternal. And I'm ready to just pass back over. And I'm looking at things, and I'm debating the existence of Buried in Ice. There's another Explorer's Blunder, so there's only one card going to be in Viktor's hand on their turn. And it is going to be... Like, if it's not Buried in Ice, then I win with the Celestial Wonder. And if it is Buried in Ice, then I wasn't winning anyway. And so I decided to play aggressively, go for the win here. Go for the Celestial Wonder. It's Hearth Bloodmender, which is not enough. I believe I'm going to Pale for the draw, just to kind of see what I can find. I just find another Pale, so we're going to Pale for the draw to see what I can find. We find a Aphelios, which I'm like debating the weapon, and then I'm like, let me just see how much this is, and then I'm like, okay, it's lethal.
By his breath.
So, going into game 2, obviously I have to switch over to my Mordekaiser. Viktor elects to stay on Jack's Ornn. And again, this is a matchup where, similar to the Draven Rumble, I'm just trying to have the biggest thing on board. I feel like that turns off a lot of their deck. I actually ship away the Beard because I'm like, I could probably play aggressively in a matchup like this as well. If I can find like a Blighted Caretaker opener with the Curse Keeper, I can probably just like smork them down really quickly. Because I am cognizant of like the Frostbites. And I've got a pretty aggressive opener. I've got the Ravenous Butcher Curse Keeper that everyone's been like screaming about with Eternal Mordekaiser. And so we've got the SI aggro turn 2 of the century, baby. Here comes 7 damage at your Nexus with a spell mana floating. And so Hapless Aristocrat, something I'm actually like not upset to see since I have this Darken Halberd. 3/5 is a little large for my taste, but I'm gonna get Deathless over to a Trundle and just take 4 damage. We do stop Yadulski from attacking, which feels pretty good. have some more of my green energy drink.
That egg.
I'm mathing out board space here. Did I math wrong? Am I gonna weapon before I caretaker? I am gonna weapon before I caretaker. Okay, sure. Yeah, we're just getting a bunch of big units here. And then caretaker. Like, this is kind of what I was mulliganing for. It's just like that good old-fashioned SI aggro. And it's working. We're presenting lethal on turn 4. Obviously, some blocks are going to come through. But Viktor does feel like they need to sacrifice the Yadulski in order to clean up enough of the board. And when it's all said and done, I'm actually not happy with how the end result looks for me. I'm looking like, oh yeah, you know, I've used all these cards, I've done all this damage, I'm left with like a 5-4 and a 4-3, and Viktor still has like a 3-3 and a 5-2. Granted, I've got Deathless Trundle. Glimpse Beyond's a phenomenal top deck, but I'm really hoping that like Deathless Trundle can kind of take me home. Was that my finger? Holy shit, I don't know if you heard that, but that was my finger cracking. Past me's finger cracking, not present me. I'm drinking more of my green sludge. It was good. I don't remember what it was called, but it was better than the Red Bulls I was having. Yeah, there goes the 5-7 Trundle. Probably going to turn off a lot of this aggression. But the Hard Blood Mender does have me worried about Viktor's ability to like survive and scale into the late game. Ceaseless Sentry, also a pretty good top deck. Ultimately, pretty okay with my position. Not super psyched about the idea of attacking, but because it has Deathless, I'm a lot more willing. Just push some damage onto a unit. You know, worst case, like, it gets Sky Splittered and dies, and I get another pillar. Maybe I should have gone in with the Ravenous Butcher as well, actually. Just kind of like looking at that as attack lineup, because like if I go in with Butcher, then even if Trundle like bounces off the Hearthguard, I guess things would have been more awkward into Sky Splitter if I had gone in with the Butcher. But yeah, you can see me taking more of that green stuff. The Shrek juice. It's not legally called Shrek juice. Please don't tell Riot I said that. There's my Ceaseless. And, you know, the board parity's here. I've got a lot of draw power backloaded into my hand. And there shouldn't be any, like, fast speed removal coming out of Jaxorn to stop me from, like, just glimpsing my Ceaseless in combat. Double Vial. It's not really a match where I want that, but the way that the attacks of my units versus the health of Viktor's units line up, I could find some value here. Is there an Ornn? I feel like if there's an Ornn, they would have just slammed it. Or they're I think Viktor's trying to think like, okay, if Boulevard has Mordekaiser, you know, what does that look like? How bad is that for me? What is the best way to play around a Mordekaiser right now? And goes for the Explorer. And do they come after my weapon here? I don't think so. I think they're more concerned about like the Deathless. Going straight into combat. Gonna pull my little mans. Nope. Staying out of combat. Decides that doesn't actually look appealing. What are we doing here, Vic? What you got for me? I think that's like exactly what I was thinking as well at the time that this was happening. Here we go. Okay, yeah, there's the Explorer's Blunder to take the Deathless off of Trundle. And something I wasn't aware of is... because Explorer's Blunder takes away the keywords, when it happens and at round start, next turn, when I level Trundle, are they going to have, what do you call it? Are they going to have Overwhelm? Which we'll find out here in a moment, because obviously I'm going to open with Pillar. I decided that I don't really care about the Explorer sticking around. I do just want to draw 3 cards. And so, like, I could have finished it off with Vial and then drawn off the Spiderling, but I decided I wanted to save my double Vial. As soon as I played my Explorer, I realized that I actually should have Vial Feasted the Hearthguard before they had a chance to weapon it, because now Viktor could just play a weapon on it. And I'm kind of hoping that they want to preserve the spell mana rather than have this, like, 8-9 impact Hearthguard. Which, like, inherently, not the scariest thing in the world, if we're being honest, and they do just do it, or 8-6 or whatever it is. I decided I'm going to take out that Poto Pain, but I could have done this while also killing that. Again, it's one of those things where, like, I play a little bit too fast, I throw down the Explorer, then kind of reassess the board state, and I'm like, oh, this dumbass was a 4-1, while there was a giant weapon in hand. So, we're going to level up the Trundle. Which, as you can see, does not have Overwhelm. So a little bit of an interesting thing with Explorer's Blunder there, that it is not able to gain an organic keyword from the level 2 of the unit. Just something I thought was kind of interesting, because not a lot of units do that. And I'm willing to just get rid of this pillar. I don't give a shit about this pillar. Please protect my Trundle. Let him get Deathless back on the following turn. Let him get regen. You know, all that good stuff. And I don't really care about the pillar. I am very low on life, though, so I am a little afraid, but only a little bit. And with one unit going down, you know, I've still got this weapon that I can equip. There's a 3 Sisters. Oh, yeah, Viktor decides, you know, really debating, like, oh, do I go for, you know, what do I do here? Goes for the Fury, which gives me the double Vial Feast to finish off the unit in just an absolute blowout. I remember thinking about Fury at the time, and it completely went over my head while watching this back. But I remember at the time I was thinking about Fury of the North and how double Vial Feast would be so good versus it. So I've got the weapon if I want to do something. And I decide that I do. I would like to actually kill something with one of my challengers. And I care a little bit more about Viktor's challenger than the Yadolski, since there's still some powerful weapons in the hand. This is going to level the Mordekaiser as well. And now it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, please do not draw Ornn. I don't think Ornn is leveled, but I draw Mordekaiser, which is really good. And again, Mordekaiser is leveled, so that's probably just going to be the end of the game. I decide to pass and see what happens, because, you know, if Viktor goes for an attack with, like, what they had previously, that was totally fine. But now I want a blocker for the Yadolski. Gonna get my weapon back as well. Get a couple pillars. A lot of animations that have to play out, a lot of sounds happening, but you get the general gist here. Now I'm in a very commanding position on the board. Next turn, have guaranteed lethal with the Mordekaiser attack, because either some units are going to get through their damage, or Mord is going to Grey Realm Viktor to death. Decide to Darken Halberd to get another giant blocker. Just kind of stacking ice pillars in hand. You can see Ian looking on, going, wow, Boulevard's so good at Legends of Runeterra. This is really cool. Entrancing LoR, unfortunately, still not large enough to take out Mordekaiser. Gonna take out a Trundle, but, like, yeah, it's pretty whatever. And I'm just gonna pass, and I think I'd go for an open attack here. Because, again, it's still lethal. Because I'm killing so many units. And even if I'm, like, one shy, I still have the Wings in the Wave post-combat to get another kill, and I think I even end up top-decking something that incentivizes, yeah, they who endure. I go for a quick check on it. Not immediately, because I'm still scared of Buried in Ice, because I think I forgot to check if they actually play it. But I think I check it right before they die, and it's a 20-20, so I make a little face there. And yeah, that is a Grey Realm victory. So, at the end of it all, So again, at the end of it all, we went by game win totals. So I had a really good record of my game wins. Where I have to full screen this. I went 7-2 in games. And both of those losses were Snnuy, because I only lost the one match. Funny enough, this is the only match that Snnuy won. In matches, I went 3-1. Snnuy went 1-3 and still made it to the finals. And then Snnuy won the finals in an internal tiebreaker. So Snnuy won the tournament by going 2-3. Unfortunately, Ian did not have as good of a time and ended up going 3-8. Their Seraphine deck just absolutely shit the bed on. I think he said Seraphine went 0-8 for him. Like, just absolutely shit the bed, which is really unfortunate. 'Cause, like, I felt like I was having the time of my life, and every time I looked over at Victor, or not Victor, Ian, he just looked kind of miserable. He was playing against, like, Gnar elusives every round that I looked over, like, just having a bad time. So I believe our combined score was 10-10, which put us, I think, in a tiebreaker for 4th and 5th. And they were only supposed to, like, prize to top 4, but then someone couldn't make it, so Vriss had to fill in. And because Vriss is a rioter, they're like, oh, we can't give a prize to a rioter. We'll just prize down to 5th place. So that's where the rock, paper, scissors versus Raleigh came in, was for pick order on 4th versus 5th. But yeah, so I was able to get the prize of rotating a card, and Ian is going to unrotate a card, and I will have more on that for you later. But yeah, 7-2. Really happy with the Burble Elder Aphelios Zoe. Like, I just love that deck so much, and I can't wait for the Eternal Ladder to open up so I can jam it a bit more with the Sand Dragon and the Chained Caster and all that stuff. So, thank you so much for watching. That was my run at the tournament, and I'll have some more LoR Invitational content coming soon, a vlog and things of that nature. So, thank you.